Hi guys, I'm myself Joel Saji of First Group. Would like to speak about the analysis of first and second chapters of the novel, The Canterville Ghost. Chapter 1. The minister, Mr. Otis, buys Canterville Castle, despite everyone warning him about how foolish the idea was and that it was a haunted place. A few weeks later, the Otis family moves into the new home in a lovely July evening. When they enter the avenue of Canterville Castle, spookiness fills the air around them. Suddenly, Mrs. Otis sees a red stain on the floor just by the fireplace and asks Mrs. Umney, the housekeeper of that castle, to clean it. The old woman smiles and answers, "It is the blood of Lady Eleanor de Canterville, who was murdered on that spot by her husband Sir Simon de Canterville in the date of 1575. Sir Simon disappeared 7 years later. His body was never to be found again. But his ghost still haunts the castle," says Mrs. Umney. The bloodstain is a tourist attraction now and it cannot be removed. Listening to this, Washington, the eldest son of the Otis family, wipes it off with the help of a stain remover. But as soon as the bloodstain disappears, a terrible flash of lightning lights up the room and the whole building shakes. Chapter 2. Apart from the horrible storm at that night, it was rather peaceful night. The next morning, however, the blood stain reappears. Washington cleans it the second and third time, only to see that it reappears every single day, despite library being locked all night. At 1 a.m. that night, Mr. Otis wakes up to the sound of metals clanging each other. So Mr. Otis opens the door to check what's happening. There, right in front of him, stood the ghost, whose wrists and ankles were heavy due to the chains. Instead of being frightened, Mr. Otis said, "My dear sir, you must oil those chains. It's impossible to sleep with such a noise going on outside the bedroom. I have therefore brought you this bottle of lubricator and I will be more than happy to supply you with more if you require it," and goes back to bed. Shocked by the reaction of Mr. Otis, the Canterville ghost stands quite motionless for a moment, but then he growls angrily. Just at this moment, the twins throw a large pillow at him. The ghost hastily escapes and takes a deep breath upon reaching his small secret chamber.